Hey everybody, this is Andrew Bedford of the We Are Rising podcast. Fortunately, I don't have my rash guard, which usually is the sign that we are talking BJJ. So pretend this is a long sleeve rash guard. But with us, we have Nick Oliver, black belt out of San Diego Fight Club, and going to be competing at ADCC Hiroshima this month, September 15th, I believe it is when it
Yeah,
starts. Yes.
yeah.
Mine. Have you weight class decided yet?
Uh, I think I'm stuck in minus 99 and
Okay.
absolute. Yeah.
Okay, so my nice 99 absolute. So yes, yeah, Nick Oliver, thank you so much again for talking with us about your upcoming competition. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So between the last time we talked, which was for level G, that was last year, I think, summer of last year, I think it was, or spring of last
Yeah, it
year.
was June of last year,
Yeah.
so over a year ago.
How has your jiu-jitsu journey been from then till now? Anything change? Anything the same?
Uh, yeah, jujitsu journey. I mean, I train and teach full time. It's one of the benefits of being in San Diego is there's always a place to train or an open slot. So train full time, but once I know I have a competition coming up, I always double that number of whatever I'm doing normally. So if I do 4 times a week or 3 times, I normally will try to make it 6 or 8 times. So yeah, just been training more as of recently. And then as far as general jujitsu journey, just been focusing a lot on nogi. With aspirations to do well in the next trials. I think the next trials is just less than 2 years away. So been setting a focus on that. And then yeah, just also dealing with some injuries that just comes with the territory of jiu-jitsu. You train 6 times a week, stuff's gonna wear out, and stuff's gonna give and get tired. So just trying to deal my best with having little injuries here and there, and then trying to keep training. But yeah, the goal stays the same mostly.
So
Yeah.
you train 6 days a week?
Yeah, just about. I mean, for the past 3 weeks, I've trained every single day. So Sunday through Saturday, I've trained every single day, and then Tuesday, Thursdays, I do jujitsu twice a week, and then last Friday, I did twice a week on Friday also. So I think the past 3 weeks, I've trained like 10 times per week. So
I don't know if you listen to Joe Rogan or Lex Friedman, but when you had Craig Jones on, when they both had Craig Jones on, I there was a lot I learned about like Danaher Death Squad type was it a new wave training I guess schedules. Apparently Danaher likes to have his guys train 7 days a week. I don't know if you are do you subscribe that 7 days is needed to train? Do you need the day off, day of rest? I don't know. What do you have any thoughts on that?
So I don't think it's necessarily like day of rest. Some people do it like that, where they'll train like 6 days or 5 days and then train 2 times a day and then take 2 days off or whatever it is. I think if you are going to train a lot, you have to prioritize rest at some capacity, um, which is like really counterintuitive for like meatheads like me who do jujitsu because you want to train and then you want to go like I don't know, surf or skate or something, or like want to do something physical. Like I even caught myself sometimes like I'll train in the morning and then lift weights at lunch and then train in the night. And then you realize by the time you get to the night class, you're just way overextended for effort. So that's just something that's come with time is like if I know I'm going to train twice a day, I train in the morning and I like basically sit down and do absolutely nothing. I'll like maybe do some stretching or something, but I really have to rest if you're going to train that much. You have to prioritize rest or else your body just will not recover and you can't do what you want to do in training. Uh, yeah, and also it's like how you train. So like if I train twice a day, I normally will be very conscious of what I'm doing. So like if I train in the morning, I'll either have that be a really hard training session and then train easy in the night, like real smooth flow roll, not would go crazy, or vice versa. Try not to do 2 death matches a day because you'll just wake up the next day just being unusable. And it's per person too. Like some people can want to train every single day. Some people want to do 5 days a week. Yeah, I've heard that about the Danaher thing. Like sometimes they'll get sun. Hello? Oh, hold on. I don't know what happened. Uh, I can't hear you. Yeah, I can hear you now. Oh, I just lost you again. Oh, hold on. Let me see. I can hear you. It's just a little like crackly. I don't know what's going on.
How about now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Is that better? Is that less crackly?
Yeah, I can hear
Okay.
you clear.
Okay.
I don't know what happened.
All I heard was right before we lost it. It was you were just talking about the Danaher thing. I guess the Danaher way of training.
Yeah, I mean, it's really per person, but I mean, he obviously the coach Danaher mandates that. Can you hear me all right? Okay. Yeah, mandates that, if you're going to be a part of a team, that's the training schedule. Uh, Whereas, and I don't think a lot of other athletes have the oversight of like a coach telling you when you need to train. I think there's just like a general expectation of when you're supposed to train. And if you start missing classes or something, your coach reaches out to you. But yeah, most gyms are not structured in that way. But I mean, they're obviously doing something right. I mean, their guys have a lot of success. So
So actually, brings up a good question. We have a question from Arturo, a long time listener watcher. He says, "Howdy, I'm a Muay Thai student, but I have a friend who has a BJJ gym next to his house, and wants to know what are some good bad signs for finding a BJJ gym."
hmm. So good, bad signs. So I would always recommend uh finding a gym. I mean, sometimes it's proximity. Like if you only have one gym that's near you, you're kind of don't have a lot of options. But like here in San Diego, we have a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms, and a lot of major cities have jiu-jitsu gyms. I would always recommend finding a place that you enjoy going to. So that means like you like the people there, you like how the teacher instructs and how classes are run. That's always the number one priority. Um, you're going to get the most out of jujitsu the more that you're able to train, and the more that you want to show up to class is how you're going to achieve that. So I know a lot of people who will like go through Yelp or go through Google and like Google jiu-jitsu schools and be like, oh, this guy is 8-time world champion, I'm going to go train here. I've taken instruction from a lot of world champions, and they are amazing jujitsu athletes, but they are horrible teachers and they run horrible programs. So it's not always equivalent of like having success in competition to like running a good program or running a good school. As it relates to finding a good gym, yeah, find somewhere where you want to go. That is, you get off of work or you get out of school or whatever it is you're doing, and you like, oh, I'm looking forward to go train. That's what I would always recommend as a priority. So
Also, from my end, one of the things I look for in a jiu-jitsu school is, especially if I'm dropping in, if they have a schedule on their goddamn website or their Facebook, because the amount of gyms that do not have one is astounding.
yeah, well, you'd be surprised. I mean, a lot of it's the same thing. Like uh, a lot of people are amazing jujitsu artists and practitioners, not good at running a business or good at running a website. So like, there's this funny thing in jujitsu where like people think that because you're a black belt, you have some like higher echelon of like, character development in all aspects of life. And I'm like, really, no, they're probably just good at jujitsu, and they struggle in a lot of other aspects, and that's
Mhm.
yes, super common. Uh,
Mhm.
yeah.
So you were also in Las Vegas for CGI ADCC, right?
Yeah, I went to both of those events. It was great. It was incredible. Yeah, I got to go to both of those on each one of the days. So we got there on Friday, went to CJI Friday, Saturday. Yeah, and then went to the finals for ADCC on Sunday. Oh, we went to ADCC the latter half on Saturday as well. So
Okay,
um,
so did you get to see Gabby and Craig
I
live?
did.
Okay.
Yeah, that was an interesting vibe live. Yeah.
Would you say, is that the type of thing would you like to see something like that again? I don't know. I don't know how that if that could ever be repeated, something like that.
I mean, I personally thought it was entertaining, like mostly the lead up to it. Like I found the lead up to that more entertaining than the match itself, just with like the Hanata Laranja interview and just like the banter and all the media. And yeah, it was entertaining in that respect, but like watching the match, I mean, everyone knew how that was going to go. Uh, Craig's a great jujitsu athlete, and Gabby, I think, has been checked out a little bit of jujitsu for a while. Um, yeah, and it's I don't know, seeing it in person was a little strange, just because I mean, no disrespect to Gabby, but I mean, she didn't look very good in there, and then like you can tell he was just toying with her. It's like there's a point where you're like, okay, like how much longer are you gonna kind of like drag this on, and then yeah, it's there's one point where like if you're in the crowd, like you hear people scream stuff and you're like, like people are like rape choke or something. You're like, oh, this is like not the right time and place. Like when it's like a dude going against a woman, and then like yeah, seeing Craig like face crank and like choke Gabby in person, it's just like has a weird vibe to it. But all things surrounding it, super entertaining. Yeah, I don't necessarily like want to see that match again or like anything of that nature. But I think all things surrounding it was pretty fun.
And speaking of Craig Jones, I know you got to train with him, I think, in Bangkok or Thailand, somewhere in by.
Yeah, so I've trained with him a couple of times. He had a seminar in San Diego that I got to train with him at, which was really good at Legion. And then after that, I went and had the Songkran camp, which is like Thai New Year over there, and that was in Phuket. So I got to train with him. I think it was just over a week that camp was, and yeah, I got to train with him just about every day there. And
Did you get to
fun.
spar with him or
Yeah,
grapple?
yeah.
What is it about him? Like, how does he do some of the stuff that he does? I just can't explain it. Like, I've watched so many of his stuff. I'm like, how does somebody even physically like get to a position like that or choke somebody out like that? I
So like ever even starting with like the Danaher guys. So like if you go back, and I think it's like the person who really gets the credit for this would be like Eddie Bravo, because ever since then there's been this like alternate path of jujitsu, and it's just like if you were to surmise it, it's just like finding the gaps where jujitsu has pitfalls. So like everyone knows like a rear naked choke, everyone knows like a knee slice, everyone knows like these like fundamental jiu-jitsu things. And some guys are really good at taking that knowledge and that technique and then exploiting it for granted. So like a guy's gonna knee slice you. So it's about like finding the holes in that technique or that pattern and exploiting it. And I think Craig is just really good at that. He knows what like the archetype of certain people are and their games are, and then using that basically against them and finding the holes in that game to exploit. Um, yeah, all the times I got to roll with him was really fun. I definitely learned a lot. He's a pretty good instructor. A lot of the stuff that he taught, I don't really use, but he taught some things that I use every single day. It's also just a lot. Like we did the camp there, and it was um, morning training. I forget it was like 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and then you train at night at 6 p.m. And then also for like higher level guys that we'd train in the middle of the day, so like black belts or like competitors and stuff, we'd have like a smaller training session around like noon. So you'd literally train up to 3 times a day. And it was a lot. And Craig would teach an hour long class of technique every single day. It's just a lot of material. Um, but yeah, those mats were packed. There's had to have been like 100 people or something close to that on the mats, and you're just lots of training, lots of rounds in. But it was really fun. Yeah, it was a good time. I would do it again.
um and speaking of also overseas, you got your ADCC Hiroshima coming up. So this is not is this part of like this is kind of like its own little thing. This is not trials or anything like that.
No, this is an open. This is the first ADCC Open that they're having ever in Japan. And I was like, oh, this would be a really good opportunity to go to Japan again and get some redemption for losing my last match at level G. And then yeah, also an excuse to go to Japan and compete. I'm all for it. Plus, like the sound of winning the first ADCC Japanese Open is kind of like a cool title I'd like to have, and yeah, it should be fun.
have you, I don't know, have you stalked Smooth Comp and looked at your other people in your division? Do you do that, or do you go on YouTube and copy names and see what they've done? Is that something
Yeah,
you ever
yeah,
do?
of course. I think some research is like, I think if you're not doing research on your opponents, you're kind of like leaving you're leaving some money on the table a little bit, kind of thing. Like it does you, you know, nothing but positive to kind of know, have a general idea of what your opponents do or what their habits are, maybe what the mistakes there are, or like what they've lost to in the past, what they're good at. All these things is like valuable information, just like basic strategy stuff. So yeah, I try to look up anytime I do a competition. I try to find out as much as I can about whoever I'm going against, and then tailoring, I guess, strategy and what I plan on doing, how I want the match to go based on the rule set on some of that info.
Mm.
I looked on the smooth comp, and there's only right now there's only a few people in minus 99, and there's not a lot of footage or information about them. So I think it's fun in that way. It's kind of like a mystery. We'll see how it goes, and I get to just do my game and then adapt to however it goes. And then yeah, and then I'm signed up for the absolute. There's a couple people in the absolute that are uh that I know who they are, so those should be fun too.
Yes,
um,
I've always, it's when I did my first competition in Japan, like the heavier it gets, the less people that there are in those divisions. Probably the opposites when you've done ADC trials or any sort of competition here. Like whenever you do whatever the equivalent of 99 is or absolute, it's probably a lot more people than it is than in Japan, right?
yeah, well, like here in Southern California, the all the divisions even out pretty uniformly. Like yeah, it's just you have people of all sizes here, from super small all the way to the biggest. Whereas, and yeah, in Japan and Asia, definitely, the higher up you go in the weight, the less people you get. It's just like a geographic stature thing. But yeah, the big guys in Japan though. So like when I was going over there and teaching classes and stuff, man, the big guys like all feel like they're like retired wrestlers or like judo like heavyweights or something. They're all super strong, and even though if they look like pudgy or fat, they're strong. Those dudes are, they carry their weight well. It's not like a they're not they don't feel very sloppy to me. They feel pretty tough. So this is the first time I'll be doing minus 99. I normally do 88, but yeah, I've just didn't feel like cutting the weight this time. So the last time I did 88 was in Singapore, and then I purposely booked a hotel right next to like a spa, this place where it had a sauna and a place to cut weight. So I was able to make the weight pretty easily. But I had a really hard time in Japan making weight. So I went over there and I got off the airplane, I think about 9 pounds over from what I had to make. And I was like, oh, not a big deal. I can cut 9 pounds in a day. I just have to find a place where I can sweat. So I went to, I think, three different spas or bathhouses or whatever, like in my area that was in Shibuya. And I wasn't able to get into any of them except for the fourth one. So I went to four different places, and the fourth one I went to finally was like, oh, okay, yeah, you can actually come here, because first place was no foreigners, and then the two places after that said no tattoos. So the two places that did accept foreigners, I couldn't have tattoos there. So I ended up going to this place where foreigners and tattoos were accepted, and it was kind of like a funny crowd. Like you go in there and you go downstairs into this like sauna slash bathhouse, and it's just a bunch of dudes in like full bodysuit tattoos and like yakuza looking dudes with like missing fingers and stuff. So you're like, oh, this is like a fun crowd you get to be in with. So I figure if I had that much hard of a time finding a place to cut weight in Tokyo, it's going to be impossible to find a place in Hiroshima to cut weight effectively. So I was like, you know what? Uh, I won't choose to cut a ton of weight the day of, just in case something happens. I'll just stay at closer to my natural weight, and I tend to be a little bit faster and a little bit more technical than the bigger guys, anyways. But it's my first time at minus 99, so looking forward to it.
The best advice I give you about Japan is the farther away you get from like Tokyo and Osaka, the less likely there'll be tattoo friendly or foreigner friendly bathhouses, spas, whatever. So yeah, no, Hiroshima would be a lot more difficult to find something like that.
Yeah, I figured as much. Like I was like, yeah, I had a hard enough time in Tokyo. I can only imagine how much it's gonna be pressing me, especially if I think if I were to make I'm a light minus 99 right now, but I'm comfortable. But I'd have to lose, I think right now like 11 pounds or something like that to make minus 88, and I just don't losing 11 pounds the day of the tournament. Without having anything logistically, ironed out. It's not like I can call these places and be like, "Do you guys accept foreigner?" Like the
Hmm.
logistics aren't don't work like that. So hedge my bets, just do minus 99, walk around comfortable, eat some sushi, eat some ramen, and then go smash some people.
Hmm. Eddie, are you doing any seminars like you did last time so far, or just you're just kind of going to Japan, doing your thing, then come back?
Yeah, so last time I was able to set some stuff up because I had a little bit more time. I was there for almost 2 weeks last time. So I spent about a week teaching, and then I did level G, and I spent a couple days after that teaching as well. Whereas in this time, I'm basically going to be there for 6 days, 7 days, just because I have a bunch of other scheduled stuff. If I could stay there longer, I would. And then also me pulling the trigger on actually going was not until about a week or two ago. So I didn't have a ton of time to set up a bunch of stuff. Um, so yeah, plus I'm flying into Tokyo and then taking the bullet train to Hiroshima. So there's a day of travel on either side. So it just doesn't leave a lot of room for time to teach. As much as I would love to, it's one of my favorite experiences I've ever had is teaching in Japan. I would love to do that, but it's just time does not allow it this trip. So
What else do you have planned? Any plans for Hiroshima? Are you gonna see anything? You gonna see the river temple thing or anything like that?
yeah, I think there's the big like the building that's still standing from when the bombs landed or whatever. I like to go see that. Plus, I've just been looking up stuff. I hear there's a lot of great food, just like everywhere else in Japan. So I plan on having some good meals out there. And yeah, that's basically it. I mean, I'm going there for business. I'm unilaterally focused on going there and winning. So if I can enjoy some stuff along the way, that's great. But that's kind of not not at the forefront of like what I care about. I care about getting there and you know doing what I got to do, winning and picking up my gold medal, and then coming home.
Hmm. Good. I don't know if I asked you this last time, but it's been a while, so I don't know. Do you ever get competition or match anxiety? Does that ever affect you at any points?
So it's not. I don't really feel anxiety anymore. I've been competing since I was like 12 years old, and I'm 32 now. So I've been competing for 20 years. I've won enough matches and lost enough matches to where I don't feel a ton of anxiety, but I do find myself thinking a lot about scenarios for competition. And yeah, that's basically it. I just think about like what I'm gonna do while something happens, or if this happens, what I'm gonna do. But I wouldn't necessarily call it anxiety. I would call that just like I don't know, trying to prepare for all the scenarios that could unfold. But like when I stand on the edge of the mat ready to go for a match, I really don't feel anything. I actually get pretty excited. Like I when I think about going and competing, it actually makes me pretty happy. I pretty excited to go and compete and do that.
Well, now that you're also coaching as well, I guess I mean, do you have a coaching style kind of with your students?
Uh, my style is to like give them useful information that I can see and affect. Uh, yeah, basically trying to uh, if I were trying to just tell them things I would do in that scenario, and that's only if I feel like they need it. I have a lot of teammates where I literally will just tell the time to them. Where like they're doing everything fine, they're winning, they have their own game plan, they know what's going on. We've done this in training, and I literally just have to let them know what the time is. Or little stuff like if they're trying to pass a guard, I'm like legs are open, just so that they know maybe little things that they can't see. Whereas in people who are a little bit less experienced, I basically will doing the match for them with coaching. Like put your hand here, fish this underhook, put your knee to the ground here, like every detail I can to give them some success. Yeah, so it's like a person per person
I,
style.
I
Yeah.
just thought, do you have anybody who's gonna be coaching who's gonna be your second at these things? Or are you just going solo?
So I have my friend Zane Peck, who's been training with me for a long time, on and off. He's going with me. He's going to be he's a white belt. He's competing in the beginner division, I think, for minus 65 kilos, but he's going to be going with me. I don't know if he'll be coaching me much. Like I'm going to ask of him just to tell me time, so I know how much time I have to work and probably like when points start and stuff like that. But yeah, I plan on. He has a pretty stacked division, so I plan on doing my best to coach him to the best of my abilities to give him success.
Are they allowing foot locks, heel hooks for beginners?
No heel hooks for the beginner division, but there is straight foot locks. Yeah, which I think is strange. I think even ADCC beginners should be able to heel hook each other. I don't know. I feel like I just think that's how it should be.
Mm,
But yeah,
mm.
that's the rules. Also, I don't think they're slamming in the beginner divisions. I like you can't slam out of submissions, which I also think is strange. But
Are, hmm. ACC, they I know they definitely allow slam. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, okay.
yeah,
Um, I'm guessing. So I think when they were creating the rules for this, they obviously were like, okay, we gotta have a lot of traditional ADCC rules, but then there's also a lot of stuff in Japan, a lot of stuff that if like I think they're bringing some IBJJF type stuff with them. They're trying to almost have the best of both worlds. When I read the rule set,
yeah. I don't know if like nerfing is like the right way to say it, but it's like they are tailoring the rules to be a little bit more accommodating, I guess, for people who are starting jujitsu and trying to get into competitions. Um, but
is there even does EDCC even have a beginner division here? I don't think so, right? It's kind of blue belt,
for
right?
for this for the opens, they last year they started beginner, intermediate, and advanced
Oh,
divisions.
okay,
So
okay,
yeah, I forget what the time frame is. I think 0 to 2 years mat time is beginner, 2 to 5 is intermediate, and then 5+ is professional.
okay.
So I think that's what it is, if I recall correctly.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, it's I don't know if I'd say I think more of what carries over is like the point system. How like you have, I think the beginner divisions are 6 minutes, intermediate is 8, and professional is 10. So it's a still same style. You have 3 minutes, no points, 3 minutes points, and then the point structure is still the same.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Gotcha.
I personally think you should be able to slam and heel hook at every level. But
Mm. So you think if somebody gets in a triangle, power bomb them through power bomb as much as possible.
yeah, absolutely.
So let me play devil's advocate with that because I do
Sure.
understand both sides.
Okay.
A slam is the idea of jujitsu is not ideally you can choke someone out, but the idea of knocking them out is kind of antithesis to what jujitsu is.
Well, I mean, how would you call? I mean, choking someone out is making them unconscious. You're just
It
not
is,
a
but
strike,
the
right?
threat of banging your head, the back of your head, potentially, there is a way to protect your head. There is a way to protect your head if you're going to get slammed. And I learned it in pro wrestling school, which is put your chin right here and put your arms out to basically absorb all of it. But I'm
Yeah.
guessing that probably 90% of the people who are going to be competing, don't know that way to protect themselves. So when they get slammed, they're going to get the back of their head knocked and potentially knocked out. I understand no spiking, like why no spiking is across the board.
I
But
agree
when
with that too. Yeah, like intentionally putting someone onto the crown of their head, I think is, I don't advocate for that.
I think the problem is that because I know that when I first started jiu-jitsu, we did the falling drills. We always used to do the falling drills so that we
Yeah,
wouldn't
break
fall. But
falls.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I don't see that taught a lot anymore in a lot of places. At least when I
Yeah,
dropped it in gyms.
it blows my mind, honestly. Like I know people who are high level jujitsu people who have brown, purple belts and stuff and don't know how to break fall. When you start judo, like traditional judo schools, you don't even get to start doing throws until or takedowns until you know how to properly break fall. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah, I find that amazing. I mean, break fall is not always going to save you from being slammed, but I mean, it definitely is going to provide you some more resources to not be injured if you do get slammed or if you get taken down. But to like touch on your like point of like jujitsu is supposed to be like essentially what I think you're saying is like focused on tech being technical, like technique as opposed to like maybe brooding.
The technique of grappling, the technique of
Sure.
grappling, joint manipulation, all that stuff. I see slam as like that's like not deliberate or unintentional trying to knock out somebody.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's like if I could knock someone out with a slam, that's great, but I don't think that's necessarily the focus of it. I think the focus is like making people acutely aware of your danger and submission. So like for me, jujitsu has always been like people call it the gentle art, but you have to remember like jujitsu got its notoriety from full contact fighting, no holds barred fighting, right? So for me, the essence of jujitsu is like violence, really. As much as it's nice and like flowy and beautiful and all this stuff, like there's you cannot remove jujitsu from its violent nature, and its violent nature is directly, is connected to combat, and that combat I think is just if the closer you can make jujitsu to combat, the more it's closer to its origin, I think. So like remember you have the Gracies who would literally dojo storm each other, like go into a gym and fist fight each other to see who was the better gym on the block, or people were talking smack. And then we've lost that, we've forgotten that, and it's turned into this like, oh, everyone's nice, let's play around and flow roll, and whereas in yeah, I think I think it's important if especially like as it relates to self-defense. I know a lot of people say like, oh, you don't have to train jujitsu to, I just want to do it because it's fun, and I don't care about the self-defense part. I just want to like learn cool techniques and have fun. And I think you can do both. I think you can have a realistic grasp on how to properly defend yourself and also have fun and do jujitsu. So like the majority of submissions that you can get slammed out of have ways of mitigating slamming. So like if you have a triangle, there's a lot of ways to prevent someone from slamming you. If you have back mount, like all these things that you can slam out of, there are avenues with which you can take technically to avoid getting slammed. And then at the very bottom of that technical hierarchy is letting go. So like if I have if I'm triangling someone and they start picking me up to slam me, I don't have to get slammed. I can let go of my triangle. Um, and you're avoiding the slam altogether. You're giving up a submission, but you're, not getting slammed. And I think that also just lends itself to like it being practical and real. Uh, if you have a triangle on somebody, it's not uncommon for someone to pick you up and hit you with the earth. And if you don't have that context, then I think you're kind of like robbing yourself a little bit of like what jujitsu actually is, or like yeah, what it was meant for. So
So here's one counterpoint to that as well. So 99 kilogram division. I looked up how much that is. That's about 218 pounds, whatever.
yeah,
I'm a 145-pound guy.
yeah.
I somehow get you in a triangle, and then you pick me up to slam me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that is. There may not even be enough time because of just the weight variance to like, you know, get out, like to even for me to get out of that in like an absolute division or something like that.
Right. But also like you have to take into consideration. I agree with you, right? It could be like time sensitive where you're like, oh, I'm bigger and stronger, therefore you don't have a lot of time to, figure out what's gonna happen. But you have to go all the way back to like why are you having me in a triangle in the first place? It's because you signed up for the tournament, you signed the waiver, right? And you signed up for the absolute division. So these are all things that you got into knowing, right? So if someone slams me in a triangle, I'm not going to get upset about it. I'm going to accept the fact that I put myself in this scenario, right? If you don't want to like be slammed, don't sign up for ADCC. Like, yeah, and I like slams. I think slams also make things exciting. I think when you can slam off of takedowns, you can slam out of submissions. It adds it adds a new variable that I think a lot of people aren't familiar with. And yeah, I personally like it.
I think I also read the rules that I think unlike ADCC proper, I don't if it goes out of bounds, they restart, right? I think.
I think
Once I misread it.
it's referee by referee. So like
Okay.
it's some of the ADCC refs like for the opens will stop it, especially if it's like kids or beginner divisions.
Okay, yeah.
But generally at the pro level, they let it go. Like when I went to ADCC Thailand, um, for the finals, me and this guy were trying to murder each other, and we spent probably half the time off the edge of the mat. It was held in a mall in the middle of in the middle of where was it? Phuket, I think it was. So it was in a mall. So on either side of the mats, there were like walkways where people were just shopping and hanging out, and like people were walking by in this mall being like, what the hell's going on? And then you have me and this big dude, these gorillas just falling into the walkway and like going over the signs and the barriers and stuff. And it was pretty wild. They didn't stop us at all, really. So yeah.
So speaking of one of the last questions I'll have for you is, have you ever been in a match where you had to injure your opponent because they weren't tapping out? That you can recall.
Where I've had to injure my opponent.
So like I don't know if you're a type that kind of that like you kind of put enough pressure to give them time or you go full out. But if you do give them that time to tap before, the leg turns 360 or whatever, or
Yeah,
anything like that.
it's case by case, really. So like if I'm going against someone and this has happened where I feel like it's a little bit of a mixed match where like I can feel myself, I have a lot more control. I pass their guard easily. I mounted them easily. I'll do things with a little bit more control and a little bit more discretion. Whereas in if it's a really contentious match and me and this guy are like neck and neck and I get a hold of something, I'm taking that thing as fast and as hard as I can. And if it goes, it goes. I remember so like as bad as it sounds, you have to do things with the intention of breaking them so that they work. Like if you're doing an armbar to get a tap, I find that the psychology of that actually limits you from getting taps in a lot of ways. Whereas then if you try to do an armbar where you're actually trying to break the arm, that the tap is going to come. So yeah, it's like I'm never really trying to hurt anybody. I don't want to like hurt or break anyone's arm or anyone's leg, but sometimes it happens, man. I mean, this isn't golf, you know what I mean? It's a combat sport for a reason. So like when you're competing, especially at a high level, you accept the fact that if you're in something bad, you should tap early, unless or else something bad's going to happen. You're going to break a ligament or break a bone or something like that. So, yeah, never my intention, but
Well,
if
I
I
guess like, well, if there was one time where like you were just putting on, and I remember Grant Bogdanov told me a story where he put a guy in Kimura, and he's like, dude, I'm gonna break your arm if this doesn't tap, if you don't tap, and the guy was refusing to tap. So then, yeah,
so I've had in competition, I've bent some people's arms backwards really bad. I've definitely dislocated elbows for arm bars. I've dislocated a dude's elbow with a Kimura once because his shoulder didn't give out. His elbow gave out before his shoulder did. And then yeah, one time I was rear naked choking a guy and he kept defending the rear naked choke, kept defending, kept defending. And I was like, all right, well, since I can't get it under your chin, I'm just going to choke straight through your face. And then I ended up, rearranging his teeth a little bit. But he tapped. So yeah, I mean, stuff like that has happened. Like I said, never, all the elbow ones were never intentional. It was just like circumstantial. I was going for an armbar. They didn't tap. Stuff started going backwards and popping. Um, Same thing. I did a knee bar one time. The dude's knee was popping and the tap was eventually a scream because of the one pop was really loud. But yeah, never like again, never intentional. But yes, I've definitely had some stuff go. The worst one that's probably was the closest to intentional was the rear naked choke one, where I was like, all right, if you want to defend the choke, I'm just gonna choke right through your teeth, and then yeah. So,
gotcha. Unfortunately, Nick, I have to get ready for another interview with Bellator Fire next. I want to give you an opportunity to plug your sponsors, your gym, Anything else? And as well, is there a way that people can watch this ADCC Hiroshima?
Yeah, I believe all the ADCC in Asia, the Southeast Asia, are all streamed on UFC Fight Pass. So this one should be streamed on UFC Fight Pass. I don't know when that's going to be for US time, but you could always watch it after the fact too if you wanted to watch my matches. But yeah, what to say? Special thanks to you for having me on. Always appreciate what you do and yeah, your platform, and always appreciate a good talk, and always appreciate the banter you and I always send each other online, just joking around. And then yeah, thanks to my coaches, Charlie Poehler at San Diego Fight Club, Brandon Magana at Grappling Dynamics. Special thanks to Barrett Yoshida. He always helps me get ready. Like, he always welcomes me into his gym when I'm getting ready for tournaments. Yeah, thank you to my sponsors, my gear sponsor, which is Gold BJJ. Couple of great guys. They really care about the sport, really care about their athletes, and treat me and all their guys very well. I'd recommend going and check them out. All their stuff's available on the website or on Amazon. Special thanks to a guy who keeps me healthy. His name is Dr. Chad Wells. He's my sports rehab guy, physical therapist. He literally keeps my body together. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Tune in, watch me smash some guys in Japan. I'm looking forward to it. And you could also check me out on Instagram. My handle is no_liver. And yeah, I should have some updates on there as well. And yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem, Nick. Thank you so much. I'll definitely be. I won't watch it live, unfortunately, just because of the time difference. But I will probably definitely watch it. I'll definitely watch them like after the facts, after I get some sleep. But I appreciate it. Good luck in all of your matches, and hopefully, maybe the finals between you and Deagle.
Yeah, I hope so. Deagle's he's a good guy and he's a really good competitor. I hope that works.
Just make sure you're ready to tap if he gets you in a heel hook, because I watch this stuff all the time, and I'm just like, I would, if he even looked at my feet, I would just like tap out immediately.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Okay, appreciate it, Nick. Thank you so much.
Later, man.